Hello everyone! Welcome back to episode 2 of my Session Storytime series. Last episode, we left off peacefully, having made a friend out of a nobleman and fallen asleep in his manor, warm and cozy and safe. Well, warm at least, but far from safe. Our haven had turned into our hell as we woke up to the scent of smoke and the crackling of flames. Bewildered and caught completely off guard, all we could do was try and escape with our lives as the manor crumbled around us. But, knowing us, we couldn't just escape alone. No, we had to risk our lives to find Charles and drag him along with us, as he had decided that recovering his noble pedigree and his father's rapier was somehow more important than fleeing the burning building. Nevertheless, we all made it out alive as the structure of the manor finally gave way. Well, all of us except for Charles's father. He was less devastated than we'd expected, really. His father was a foul man. It was no secret in his family that his maids were all hired due to his, taste in women, to put it somewhat appropriately. As it turns out, the reason that Charles was so taken aback at his father's innocent request for a game was because it wasn't really an innocent request at all. No, in this strange new world that I'd come to, asking someone to play chess was certainly asking them to play, but not the board game that Charles had shown me the night prior. No, it was no game. I was being propositioned. Ugh, by the moons, thinking about it gives me the creeps to this day. So, needless to say, the loss of Charles's father was no great loss to the world at all, but the loss of a parent cuts deeply, no matter how terrible they may have been. And on top of that, in one night, Charles had lost all of his worldly possessions as well. He had nowhere to go, no one to turn to with his mother and brother just out of reach, and now painfully aware that someone was out for his blood. So, we let him come with us. Syl and I didn't really know where we were going or what we were doing either, but I guess that just means we had just that much more in common. So, with our dynamic duo now bumped up to a trinamic trio, we, did the only thing we really could do. It was still dark, and we were now out of a place to stay, so we headed back to the bottomless cauldron. At least there were friendly faces there, even if we had to pay gold to stay there. And by we, I mean Charles and Sylvaeus. I had no money. I didn't have anything. When I first came to this world, I had nothing but the fur on my flank and my crystal skull, the item that I used to channel my magic. So, back to the tavern we went, and just like before, there was an instant zing of connection between Melody and Sylvaeus. Now, like myself, Sylvaeus wasn't exactly one to tie himself down too much, but unlike myself, he sort of had a, buffet-style attitude about these things. Try a bit of this, try a bit of that, and that night he wanted to try some broccoli cheese soup, apparently. It's important to note that our DM really meant for this to be an L for Syl, being so attracted to this barmaid because she looked like the ugly stepsister from the cinematic masterpiece Shrek. It didn't work though, because us two players actually adored this lady regardless of her physical appearance, and she was, quite honestly, a catch in pretty much every other regard. So, haha, suck it, I know you're watching this. Now, feeling a little left out here, I decided to pester our DM the only way I knew how, by forcing him to come up with an NPC on the spot. I, of course, asked if there was anyone interesting at the tavern tonight, to which he probably groaned and cursed my name, though I can't remember for certain. After a bit of heckling, though, he conceded. Yes, there was someone brooding in the corner. And so I looked. Tall, tanned, a scar running vertically over one glowing red eye, the other obscured by his jet-black hair falling haphazardly across his face. Look, attraction is a funny concept. I can't say that I was very impressed by his physical appearance, not at that moment in time anyways, but by God was this the most interesting man that I've ever encountered. You know, besides Merlin. He was just so different. I'm naturally rather loud and outgoing, although Sylvaeus is somehow even more so, But this man was quiet and brooding. I'm all pastel colors and sunshine. He was inky black and darkness, the likes of which I'd never seen before. So, I approach. At this point in my life, I was naive. Despite the many incidents I'd gone through in my short time being here, it still hadn't really hit me that I should approach situations, and people, with caution. So I trotted my happy ass right up to him and introduced myself. And he told me to fuck off, if I remember correctly. Undeterred, though, I asked him his name, and after much pestering, finally got an answer out of him. John. A nice name. Bland, but nice. But definitely not his. You see, he'd been so dodgy and avoidant with me that I wanted to roll an insight check just to see if he was giving me a fake answer to get me off his ass. And he was. So I continued pestering him and finally got a real answer out of him. Tiffany. His name was Tiffany. You see, if my DM wanted me to stop bothering with a stupid one-off NPC, he really shouldn't have done that. I did, however, concede for the night and leave the poor man alone after chatting him up for a while longer. It was very late, and I wanted to explore the city more the next day. So I and Charles headed to our room for the night, and Sylvaeus joined us later after a particularly rousing game of chess with the barmaid. Despite being a sorcerer, Sylvaeus truly was a bard in spirit, if not just for his promiscuity, then for the fact that he had a knack for smooth-talking his way just out of anything. But smooth-talking couldn't get him out of this one, though. Once again, we were woken unpleasantly, though this time by the sound of a commotion and screaming from one of the other rooms. We rushed to the aid of whoever was in need, again, and it turned out to be Melody, as a particular someone was coming at her with a kitchen knife. Never underestimate the rabid obsession of a teenage girl, god damn. So, yeah, it was the tavern keeper's daughter, and she was in a rage, having somehow discovered the brief relationship between Melody and her newest idol, Sylvaeus. It was messy, emotionally. Nobody ended up being harmed, but we definitely realized that we really couldn't stay here forever, or even for very long. So, after sleeping away the rest of the night, we headed out, money on the mind. Now, neither I nor Sylvaeus really knew this city well, or, at all, so we leaned heavily on our new traveling companion for direction, but eventually the three of us figured that the gladiator ring might be a good place to start looking. None of us were fighters, really, but perhaps if we won some bets, we'd be in a good spot. Or at least that's what I'm gonna go with, because I'm not really sure if we thought much of anything through in the beginning of this campaign. So, we arrived at the gladiator ring, and boy, that was an unpleasant surprise. It was bloody, it was gory, and it was, really not that interesting for me and Sylvaeus. And, that's why we were looking somewhere else at a very crucial moment. You see, the King of Not Rome had decided to come out and watch a few matches. It was probably so entertaining for him because goodness knows he wouldn't be able to participate himself. He was tall but gangly, lanky, and ever so slightly unkempt. We'll call him Norville. King Norville had decided to chillax and watch a couple gladiator matches, and unfortunately, he and his guards found the matches all too interesting. Too interesting to even notice the masked man that snuck his way through the crowd, aiming a crossbow bolt right at King Norville's head. Not wanting to see someone die young, or honestly at all, we all hopped down into the ring, the quickest shortcut to both get the king's attention and get to him in general. I don't know what we thought we were going to do, fist fight the masked assassin? Regardless of what we thought we were going to do, we really didn't expect the fighter in the pit to turn on us. We weren't gladiators after all, but Gorg cared not for who he fought. All Gorg knew was smash skulls and break bones, and that's exactly what Gorg attempted to do. We just barely managed to escape him, but it was already too late. We were only able to warn him just in time for him to turn and meet the crossbow bolt head-on. It landed square in his forehead, and he dropped like a sack of rocks, and all hell broke loose in the arena. In the chaos, the masked assassin attempted to make his escape, but again, with the hero complex, our party wasn't about to let that happen so easily. We gave chase, and the hunt was on. However, we weren't the only hunters out there. No, the Royal Guard themselves were hot on our tail, fully convinced for some reason or another that we were accomplices, working together to distract King Norval when our main man got the kill and booked it. Which couldn't be farther from the truth, but it's rather hard to explain that to an angry mob that's chasing after you with swords and spears and the like. So, with the guards after us and us after the killer, we darted through the city. The assassin tried to pull some tricky moves on us, quickly slipping through a secret door with a peephole slider that was heavily guarded by a large man, tasked with only allowing entry to those with the passcode. The passcode was apparently let me in or I'll explode so many vessels in your brain that you cry enough blood to put the gladiators' arena to shame. Okay, well, we probably said something significantly less cool. It has been a rather long time since that session, and I don't quite remember the specific words, but whatever we said, it had the guy whimpering and letting us in fast enough that we didn't lose our target. We continued the chase through what can only be described as everyone's perception of a black market before they find out what it actually is. We ran between stalls, selling organs, illegal weaponry, mysterious potions, and the like, not giving our masked murderer any time to rest. I can't quite remember how it happened, but at some point, whether by bumping into something or some other interference, the mask came off, and what was underneath shook me to my core. Tiffany. That handsome bastard. I had known him for one night and I already felt betrayed. He had opened up enough to tell me his name, his true name, though could I even really believe that anymore? And now I find out that he's a murderer. Powered by a sense of being personally wronged, we pursued him down into the sewers, fighting to stay upright as we slipped and slid in much the same way as our very first session. Eventually, though, we came to a dead end with a ladder, and I proved to be the downfall of the party. Ladders. Ladders are very hard with 4 legs, and I was the first one to attempt to go up it. I really don't know why I thought that was a good idea. We didn't have ladders on my home plane. Why did I even think I'd know how to climb one of them? Whatever the case, by the time it really sunk in that I could not climb ladders, Tiffany had already escaped, and the Royal Guard had managed to get ahead of us and close the manhole cover. We were trapped. And then we were captured. And that's where we're going to leave off. These few sessions were much more intense than we'd ever imagined going into this campaign, but they were only a taste of what was to come in the future. We got to see a lot of interesting places and faces this time around. Getting to see the king in person was nice for all of 2 seconds until he got assassinated. Be sure to tune in next time to hear what the Royal Guard ended up doing with us. It's still somewhat surprising to me, even to this day. If you enjoyed this session Storytime and want to see where it goes from here, please subscribe, drop a like, and comment if there's anything you particularly liked or would love to see. And as always, if you have any feedback or constructive criticism, I would love to hear it. Remember to take care of yourselves, everyone. Have a great day, and I can't wait to see you all next time.